All righty, is everybody able to see the slide?
Yes.
Awesome. Let me move it a little so I can see it. All right, so this week we are working on our guidance chapter, and we kind of cheated a little last week and put some elements of guidance and social support in that presentation. So this one, we're going to talk about strategies to make your day run more smoothly by reducing wait time, and also talk about how you can reduce biting and hitting in the classroom and what those developmentally, why those are happening. All right, so first question, what is wait time? So based on the picture here, what do you think wait time is?
Waiting for your turn.
Waiting for your turn, waiting for something to happen. When you're an adult, so as you are as an adult, what do you do when you have to wait? So you're in the doctor's office, you're sitting in the row of chairs, what do you do?
Read a magazine.
Say again?
Read a magazine.
Okay, so you read something. Anybody else do anything different?
And the phone.
Pull out your phone.
Yes.
Anything different?
You can talk to somebody.
Yep, you can talk to somebody. I'm sure we've all done at least one of those, if not all three. Since I'm early childhood, every once in a while if somebody has a baby, I'll take their baby and, you know, they hand me the baby and I play with it for a while. But, so you do something to occupy yourself. You usually don't do what this woman in the picture is doing and stare into space. Now, when you are a 2-year-old or an 18-month-old and somebody sits you down or stands you in one spot and says, wait here, what options do you have? Can you pull out your phone?
No, ma'am. Usually
no. Some parents I've seen hand phones, but if you're in a daycare, you usually don't have your mom's iPhone. You usually have a book on you if you're that age.
Yeah, normally when I want my kids to like wait for something, I'll pull out a book and they enjoy it.
Okay. But usually they don't have anything on their person usually to be able to mess with, right?
Right.
So they usually go to that last option that somebody mentioned of talking to others, or if they don't have the words, what might they do?
Sometimes we can start singing. Yeah, sometimes when I'm waiting for lunch, we sit down for 5 minutes before we can start singing.
Okay.
Lillian, this reminds me of, and Janet might be able to relate to this because we're the same age. When I used to take my children to the pediatrician, they would have tabletop toys, right, for the children to play with. I always remember the little, and they had a lot of wooden toys back then.
The train?
Yes, the train, the other little wooden spool and the wooden knobs. But again, there was always not enough toys for everyone. And so, you know, you would have those incidences of what you're alluding to that would happen in the doctor's office.
Children throwing down over the wooden train?
Yes.
All right, so let's look at what could be a typical schedule for a 2-year-old class. And the reason I didn't put a schedule for an infant class is because infant schedules are very flexible, right? It depends on when the baby's last ate, when their schedule is for diaper changing. So looking at this toddler schedule, what are some things that jump out at you that you think, they might have some wait time there?
The arrival.
Tell me about that.
Because you could start to do something with the kids, but if somebody shows up and you got to stop and you got to pick up the kids and then
So
get
the
them
teacher's
ready.
attention isn't there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually in the centers, when they come at this time, they stay in one classroom, mixed group, they live to play in any center.
Okay, mixed groupings.
Yes, and they can play any center by the time until the teacher is coming and picking up the children for the each class.
So nobody's really with their students at that time.
No, it's only one teacher.
All right. Any other times on here that you might see a wait?
Maybe when they're preparing to go outside, because it's only 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
you're getting your stuff, and they might just be like, well, what are we waiting for?
Right.
Yeah.
So I put that in there for funsies because when I was up in Michigan during the winter, 15 minutes sometimes isn't enough with all the clothes you have to get those toddlers in.
Mm-hmm.
But for South Texas, 15 minutes is a long time to get a group of kids to put on their coat maybe, if that. Do you all do sunscreen?
We do if the parents provide it, and we have like a authorization saying we can.
Is that when you do sunscreen, or do you do it once they get outside?
We do outside.
It honestly, I only have like one kid who says to do it, and I could do that outside since it's just the one kid.
Okay.
At my center, usually we do outside because we had to put the sunscreen and the mosquito repellent.
Okay.
So we do outside.
Okay. So is anybody else, so what based on what your classrooms currently look like, how much time do you need to prepare to go outside?
Well, I do 20 minutes because I do the diaper changes.
Ah.
Yeah.
So what does that first kid that gets their diaper changed do for the other 15, 18 minutes?
Roam around, play with the toys again. I'm
Wait.
just like,
all right. Anything else that you all see in here that could be an issue with wait time?
the washing hands because you have to do it one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There's a couple other hidden ones in here. Is anybody? There's one that's even hidden. See if anybody can find it. Look at the times. Is there a time that's missing?
Oh, the 7:45 to the 8 o'clock?
Yep. That's one of those black hole times that sometimes gets put in a schedule that nothing happens. All right, and just to finish this part off, what do you think about a 20-minute circle time for 2-year-olds?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. It's too much for them. I think like
Right.
It's doable, but you might need to switch it up. Switch it up.
What was that, Leanne?
I said it's doable, 20-minute circle time, but you probably have to switch it up, as in like read a book or do a dance song, and then okay, let's read a book, and then do your flashcards or your ABCs, and okay, let's keep them busy. Instead of sitting there the whole 20 minutes, you gotta entertain them, I guess, rather than.
You're not wrong. No. Entertainment's a big deal for Circle. 20 minutes, they don't recommend that length of time until they get to like 4 or 5 years old, and even then it's pushing it.
I'm lucky if I can get 10 minutes.
Yeah, so even if you do your 10 minutes or 5 minutes, still have to monitor your group to see if they're engaged or not, right? Because even if you do 5 minutes where you're enjoying yourself terribly, but they're just like this, it's not going to end well for you because they're waiting for you to be done. All right, so now let me see if I can get where I can type on this sucker. All right, so tell me, what would be a better morning schedule that would reduce time waiting? So they're still arriving between 7:15 and 7:45. Is there anything that can be done to make that more engaging?
We do table toys during that time. Like once
Say
they
again?
arrive, we'll do table toys or blocks on the carpet or books.
Have materials out and ready to use?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add for arrival? All right.
Crazy.
So I'm guessing in this school from 7:45 to 8, they transition to their classroom and get ready for breakfast. So I'm gonna put transition, if I can spell. Okay. Is there anything you're going to do in the transition and preparing for breakfast that'll make it more engaging and less wait?
You could sing songs as you're doing it.
Ooh, okay.
I'm okay with that.
Anybody have anything else they'd like to add to singing songs?
You could ask how their days were. Basically get a feel, like, I know they're two, but if you're trying to get them to work on their vocabulary, asking them what, like, asking and inputting, maybe getting a feel of it so they know what to, like, I don't know, you know.
Talking about what we're going to do today or talking about our morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. In my case, I usually did when I was working in the toddler class, when they come into the classroom, sometimes they needed to go potty, some of the children. And sometimes I need to start changing diapers because they come in, so wait.
Yep.
And then start washing hands because I did 50 minutes for washing hands, changing some of the children they're wet or some children they need to go potty. They 50 minutes ready for breakfast. That's that I did.
Okay. All things that must happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 8 to 8:30, are we keeping that for breakfast? Is that pretty standard?
Yes.
What do you do for the children that finish early?
In my case, I sit down and can get the book and start reading or see the pictures. And some children, they want to play to the centers.
So you don't make them sit at the table?
No, because they use
everybody else?
But sometimes before that, they need to wash their hands.
Yep.
Before
Okay.
after they finish, they're washing hands, whoever is finished, and then they can go to grab the book in the quiet place, cozy place.
Okay.
I try to I try to keep my kids at the table the whole time,
Okay.
because if one of the kids is done and they go to play, it distracts the other kids, and then they want to stop eating and they want to go play too.
Mm-hmm.
So normally while we're eating breakfast, well, my daycare, we're working on going to Texas Rising, so they have us like really communicating with the kids and asking how their breakfast was, getting like describing it, and you know, just talking about breakfast, really, like what they're eating, the flavor, if they like it or not. And if I'm feeding the babies, I talk to them about what they're eating, and just, you know, get a feel of it and just
Mhm.
talk to them like we're a family, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about when they finish the breakfast and everybody, because sometimes the children finish fast. So after that, you're not able to keep it on the table because I was testing reason they start telling me that you need to let they go wash their hands and they can go play until everybody's finished. Because if you keep it on the table, you need to do something with it when you are busy with the other ones.
Well, I think she's saying that she does keep them all together, but she's finding ways to actively engage them in talking with her to kind of make them forget that they want to get on to the next task and try to get that vocabulary going and the conversation skills.
Yeah, because usually when we had um, with the serving the breakfast, when we just start talking with them, what we got, the color of the food, the that's the thing. But when they finish, that's different. But well, everybody, every center is different. In my case, is different.
No, like for us, when they're actively showing that, hey, I want to get up, I do let them out. But normally my kids finish around the same time, so it's not really like they're sitting in the table for 15 minutes while the kids are still eating because they finished 5 minutes before. Like it normally takes them a minute because while I'm talking, it's kind of like distracting them that they're eating, but not really. So it's taking them a minute to eat. That way they're not rushing through it, because that's one thing I like to work with my kids, because I don't like when they rush through their food because you just need to digest it. Yeah, I like to like let them digest it easily, and I'm not really in like 5 minutes, hurry up, finish before, you know, because sometimes if you let a kid finish their food in 5 minutes, they either want way more than way more than you have because you have to wait for the other kids to come in. At least at my daycare, because my daycare, they come in at like certain times. So like they'll come in through breakfast. So it's like I'm getting kids constantly, and I try to make sure that we all eat at the same time, and then we're almost done at around the same time. And then like I go as they finish, and then like I'll take them out, wash their hands and stuff like that. But it takes like 15 minutes for them to eat, and those last 5 minutes we'll start cleaning and stuff like that. But I try to make sure they're not like just sitting in there for like 5 minutes, eat, and then they're done. And then what do you do with the rest of the 20 minutes for breakfast? Because you still have kids eating. And at least with my kids, when they see somebody playing, they either want to take their food and go play, and we don't do that. So I try to make sure like this is breakfast time. At this time we sit and we eat and we go about our days like that. Like try to get, I'm really big on scheduling, at least for the certain stuff that needs to have a schedule. Cause I don't know if it's making sense. Is it?
It is.
Okay. But yeah, I don't let my kids sit there for like 15 minutes with nothing to do. But I do try to fill that time in so they're like we actually have time to talk about what we're doing at that moment.
Yep. So you made a good point in that if a toddler is completely done with being at the table and actively trying to get up and leave, and you can't distract them with conversation, then you have to let them carry on. But toddlers are fairly easily distracted, and if you can get that conversation going, usually you can get them on board with hanging out with you and talking. All right, so circle time, folks. What is a reasonable amount we could try instead of this 20-minute foolishness?
It's either 5 to 10 minutes, really. I try to get 2 songs in and maybe 2 books in, and then go about it. Because we try to talk constantly. So like, and their attention spans are not great.
And there's nothing that says you can't have more than one meeting during a day or small group, a big group. It's just following their cues. And sometimes you might be singing a song that they absolutely adore, and if you have a group of 10, 8 of them might just be clustered around you, waiting for you to sing the song over and over and over again for 15, 20 minutes. And the other 2 are done after 5 and they walk off. All right. So then we have prepare to go outside. Am I hearing 15 minutes is appropriate for that, or do we need more?
Yes, 15 minutes sounds good.
15 minutes.
Okay.
And how long do you all usually stay outside in the morning?
For me, it's like 30 minutes.
Okay, I'm hearing 30. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's
We're
okay.
30 as well.
We're 32.
Okay, I'm hearing 30. 9:20. Y'all making me do math. Okay, so we got 9:20. So washing hands, and I'm assuming diapering and toileting when we come in, about how long for that?
It depends on how many children you have. If you have 4, like 20 minutes.
Okay, so I'm gonna put 9:40. And during that 20 minutes, trying to think of or as you're going outside, as you're coming inside, trying to think of good engaging transitions you can do so that the kids aren't waiting in that line, looking at each other, trying to think up ways to amuse themselves, and not just wandering aimlessly. So if you have some good finger plays, if you have some good songs, some dances and movements you can do in a line as you're going together, that works really nicely. All right, let's see, 9:40. How do we release children to go to their centers, their free choice? So you've got your kids, they've had their hands washed, they've gone to the bathroom or had their diaper changed. How do you then transition them to free choice?
Yes. We asked them, in my case, when I was working with the toddlers, I asked them what we want to play. And this only allowed three children at a time.
Okay. Tell teacher where you want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, does anybody have anything different? Okay.
We do a little bit of after the washing the hands, we just, so it won't be too chaotic, we just, okay, well, let's do the block area. We kind of just do only one area. And then once everybody washes their hands, then of course we transition to another.
So that's how you get rid of the waiting there. As they finish, they have a specific area that's open.
Yeah, so they won't just be going everywhere, like all the centers or whatever they might be doing.
Makes sense? Have something for them to do to engage their hands. And then for going off to free choice, they're telling, it sounds like Sylvia said, they're telling the teacher where they want to play. And then they go off there. And that gets us to 10:40. So that took about 20 minutes off this schedule, but I think there's a lot less opportunity with this kind of engagement for the children to be bored and making their own exciting games that you may or may not like. Okay. Just as an aside on the transition to free choice, at pre-K for SA, so that's 4-year-olds. At pre-K for SA, they tell the teacher where they're gonna go and what they're gonna do there and what they're gonna play with. For young toddlers especially, they can't do that yet, but they can point and show you where they wanna go. And so that's a really good start to get that kind of practice developed. All right. So engaging wait times. First, like we just did, you want to alter your schedule to shave off as much wait time as you can. And then what do you do with children during those times where you have to wait? There's nothing for it. So let's say you're by yourself, you have 8 2-year-olds, and you need to hand out something and you need them to be sitting at the table, or you need them to wait at the table while something else is happening. Here are some things you can do. Have materials ready to pass out. So things you can pass out are Play-Doh, which you all know they love the Play-Doh. You don't even have to have the cutters and everything if it's just for a short wait, just to have the little sacks of Play-Doh that you can hand for every person quickly. You can have a basket of books that you can put 1 book in front of each child or 2 books. Small toys and manipulatives. So it could be almost anything. Little tabletop toys. Like Janet was talking about, you can, or was that Stacy? I'm sorry. Puzzles,
Lillian,
objects. What?
You can also make those Ziploc bags of the slime, the sensory things, and then put little letters in there or little toys in there and have those on the table too for them to feel and engage with.
Tell me more about that, Stacy. Is that something they would open?
No,
Okay.
it's
Then I'm on
sealed, and the teacher makes it in a Ziploc bag, and so they just kind of feel it, squash it around, see if they can make the little toys or the letters or whatever's in there pop up. But each person can have their own. You can make it random colors, different colors, but that's also an option they can do.
That's nice. You scared me when you mentioned slime, because if you can't monitor them really closely, slime doesn't end well in that class.
Oh, no, it's like a little, yeah, I understand. It's like little sensory bags that you can make for them.
Slime. Have songs with props that you're ready to sing. So if they're waiting in a line to go outside, I'm a huge fan of the Hokey Pokey with 2-year-olds. It's hilarious, the things that they ask you to stick in and out. You can't do right and left yet. But they're like, put your bottom in, put your tummy in, put your head in. It's awesome. Wheels on the bus. Every age group seems to enjoy that and appreciate it. If you have a special prop that you use just for your transition outside, that's a little puppet that sings, or pictures or whatever to make it more special, they'll focus in on that. Most of us carry our phone with us, and most of us also have music that we can pull out in an instant to share with our kids. So if you have your phone playing some instrumental music in your back pocket and you hand everybody a scarf to walk down the hallway and wave their scarf, you can sing going down the hallway. Move your hands. Icky Sticky Bubblegum's very popular. Itsy Bitsy Spider. With 2-year-olds, you know that they can't focus too much on dancing and walking at the same time, so just be aware of where you're walking and if the floor is flat or if there's any kind of obstacle that'll make everybody fall over. And then books to read out loud. So if you have one teacher that's monitoring the whole class while the other one's preparing the food or changing diapers or whatever it is, if you have some books that they really like that the teacher can read out loud, books that have a big enough image that everybody can see it. So you can't get out your little board books with a tiny image. You have to have a big image that everybody can see. But those are just great things to have always in your pack. If you have your outdoor bag with your emergency kit, I would definitely have some fun things in your emergency kit, because you never know when you're going to have to go on a fire drill or wait outside for, I don't know, gas leak or something exciting like that. And it's always good to be prepared. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to this list? I heard the slime with the letters.
Lillian, if I can just add something, I do visit lots of rooms, and I do find that infants have wait times too. Although it's not the same necessarily as a toddler room, but I think it's so important as the adult, especially if you're by yourself, if you're the adult in the room, that before you change a diaper, to make sure the other children that are not getting their diaper changed have something in close proximity to them or in a safe place, so that you can quickly get the diaper changed. The other thing I would say is, if you're lucky enough to have another adult in the room with you, make sure the two of you balance who's doing what. One person changing diapers, one person engaging the other children. Sometimes I see some miscommunication between people. So, just simple, I'm gonna change diapers if you'll sing songs with them for a minute while I do that. But great ideas.
It's nice, especially licensing helps the infant room out some. So who can tell me how many minutes you're allowed to confine a child to a bouncy or something like that before you need to transition them to something else?
Is it like 20 minutes?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
So licensing builds that in, though 20 minutes of a kid being bored at that age is definitely not good.
Well, that's why we don't have bouncer. We don't have, you have to be on the floor. Yeah, that's center después. They don't allow to have nothing like that.
Well, and even contained in a crib is not, you can't keep them in a crib for that long either if they're
That's
awake.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're taking the babies, you have the big stroller and you're walking them in a circle, you still have to be trying to be engaging with those babies while you're walking. It's not just to get them out of the room so the other ones can sleep. It's also, how can you engage them and help them to enjoy their walk. And I love this picture, by the way. So, okay. So, providing choices. So you all know that soon as babies can share with you their wants and desires, they like to be in control of something, right? I've seen really small ones where you can hold up a couple things. I have a picture here of an apple and an orange, and pre-verbal, they can still point which one they'd prefer and want to do. What does offering a child or an adult a choice do for them? Can anybody think why you would offer an adult or a child a choice in something?
Makes them feel like they have a say in it.
Gives some control. Okay. Now, for an infant or a toddler, this gets some folks in trouble. How many choices are appropriate at one time?
For the infants, I'll say 2 at that.
And I would say the toddler as well, especially if you're giving the choices verbally. If they can't see what the choices are. I've heard some people rattle off to a toddler, would you like to have your diaper changed right now? Would you like to have a snack? Would you like to take a nap? And the toddler, they hear like maybe the last thing you offer, and they're like, no, I'm good. You have to also be aware of when you give yes and no choices, that it's to things that you can honor if they say no. So if you ask the child, oh, would you like me to change your diaper now? And they say no. Well, if they have a poopy diaper, that has to happen anyway, right? So that's not one of the things you give a yes or no on. What is something you could ask a toddler that they can say yes or no to that you're okay with?
I just like center Toddler.
Sure. Do you want to go to the block area? Nope. Oh, okay. How about over here? Do you want to play with the truck? Do you want to have cheese on your plate, you know, as you're passing food around family style? Though you're not doing that right now, are you? Do you want some fruit? But if you have a yes and no question, make sure that it's a question that if they say no, you're okay with that. If it's something that has to happen, so they have the poopy diaper, what choices can you still give a child? So you have to have your diaper changed now. What choices can you give them?
And you said that's for a poopy diaper? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to get a rash? They might not understand that, but you can change it.
Oh my gosh.
How
I don't
about
think you can tell them that. So maybe how they get to the, do you give them a choice on how they get to the diaper changing table maybe?
Yes, that's a better choice.
How about you can ask them, I need to change your diaper. If you want to go play with the blocks, let me change your diaper first and you can go play with the whatever choice they have.
Okay. That is something, but okay, let's just think this through. You know you've had a child that hates having their diaper changed, right? Everybody's had at least one of these. They hate it. If you tell them, let's go change your diaper, immediately they just crumple onto the floor and you're gonna have an issue. When it's that kind of situation, I like to give the child some choices. Oh, first you give them a warning, right? Oh, and after I'm done with changing Juan's diaper, I'm gonna come over and change your diaper. So in 2 more minutes, I'm gonna come and we're gonna go change your diaper. So you give them that prep time, right? Okay, it's time to change your diaper. Would you like to walk to the changing table or would you like me to carry you? Would you like to, shall we move like dinosaurs to the changing table or shall we fly like birds to the changing table? Something like that to make them feel like they're more in control of a situation they don't like. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. You know
Okay.
what?
When they get on the changing table, would you like to hold your diaper? Would you like to hold this toy on the way to the changing table? So let's practice another one. It's time to go outside. You've warned the children that we're going to go outside in 5 minutes. And now it is time. You have one child that doesn't want to go outside. What choices can you give them?
Would you like to be the line leader?
Ooh, that's exciting.
So he can give you helper and just let it know we remind him we go outside. Before that, you need to make sure that you pick your helper holding the bag or the signing chip, something like that.
Yeah, giving them a job, right? So they can be the line leader, they can hold the door, they can hold the emergency bag or the clipboard. Maybe they can choose what song you sing. Or maybe they can choose how you move. All right. So another one is we're wearing our coats outside today. Everybody has a warm-blooded child that's not into wearing a coat. What choice might you give the child regarding that. So they have to have a coat on. What choice might you come up with for that? And that's a hard one, y'all.
What choice would we give them to put a coat on?
So they have to wear their coat. Is there any choice you can think of to give them to make that seem like they have some control over it?
Would you like, well, you could ask them if they would like to help you zip it up or
Ooh,
button it.
That's nice. Does anybody remember that coat flip trick I showed them
Oh
in
yeah.
the class where you put it upside down and flip it over? So you can offer, would you like to do the coat flip? Yeah, do you want to button it inside or do you want to wait till we're outside to button it? Stuff like that to make them feel more in control of the situation. Does anybody have any questions about giving children some choice and some control over their day? I'm gonna wait a few seconds. Okay, if any come up, let me know. So, developmental milestones for toddlers is that children are very physical at this age, and their first instinct is not to control their impulses, it's to just act. And I put 2 resources here for you that you can go back. The second one especially is nice for toddler parents because I've heard many times that they think their child either is a bully or is being bullied. And toddlers don't intentionally at this age bully. They just act on their impulses, and usually because they don't have those words yet, it's a push or a shove or a bite. So we're going to take a look at this aggressive behavior article. We're not going to get far into it, but I want you to see what's available. Okay, are we seeing the 0 to 3 article?
Yes.
Okay, super. So, and we use this website quite a bit, 0 to 3. You can go in and explore topics on challenging behaviors, health and nutrition, anything that comes up really in your classroom. They have some really nice articles and resources that are specific to teachers that do birth through 3 years of age. So I'm going to go towards the end of this article. It's telling you here at the beginning why children have difficulty reining in their impulses, what you should expect from children that are having these difficulties. And it goes all the way up to 3 years. And on the bottom here, it helps you with how to respond. So their step 1 is trying to figure out what is the going on. Is there a pattern to it? Do they cry every day when it's time to take a nap? Are they acting out every time it's time to take a nap? When are they pushing? Are they pushing only when we have them wait in line? Are they biting only when they're shoved together with children in a tunnel? What is causing it? So the more that you can observe and write down and figure out what you think is causing the behavior, the better you can intervene and change what's going on in the environment, what's triggering the behavior. Says here, other important factors are their developmental stage. So if they're a young toddler and they're really sensory, it's perfectly normal for them to bite down on something if it's close to their mouth. Perfectly normal for them to shove things away if their space gets too crowded. We talked about temperaments earlier. So if a child's temperament is more volatile or they're more sensitive, they might be the child that's more likely to do the pushing or shoving or closing in on themselves if they get overstimulated. And then remembering our own temperament. So if you're somebody that's very easygoing and slow to warm up, you might have to think about, okay, this child is one that's very reactive and very outgoing, and I need to give them leave to be who they are. It also talks about thinking about what's going on in your home life or your stress level and how that can influence how you're reacting to children. So if you have a higher stress level, if you just got 5 new kids in your class that are all really outgoing, boisterous children, how that might affect how you respond. So after you've collected that information, it talks about how do you prevent it. So if the kids, when they bunch up together, start biting, how can you reduce the amount of times they bunch up together? If you have a tunnel in your classroom that they're enjoying crawling through, but you're having a lot of bites happening in the tunnel, how can you reduce the children in the tunnel to 1 at a time so they don't have that opportunity to bite when somebody gets next to them in the tunnel? Giving advance notice of an upcoming change. So that's your 5-minute warnings, your 2-minute warnings. Also letting them know, oh, your diaper is going to be changed after I'm finished with Juan's diaper. You're going to be next. Last week, here's the helping them understand their own feelings. So last week we talked about that, labeling what you're seeing and what you think they're feeling, and then helping them figure out what they can do. So if you can't snatch the toy from, you wouldn't use the word snatch. If you can't have the ball that Julie's playing with right now, what do you see that you can play with? What can we find to play with together? Talks about responding to aggression, how you need to stay calm and project calm, recognizing the children's feelings, labeling those, using words and gestures. So the child, if they're really, what's the word? Reacting to something strongly, they're not going to stop and listen to what you're saying. So you need to be very calm and very deliberate in your gestures so that they can get it from that instead of what you're saying. And it's almost cheating, but trying a distraction. Toddlers and infants are very easily distracted. If they're very worked up about something, after you've labeled their emotion and what's going on, offering to do another game with them or something can kind of swap their brain over to a different track to calm them down. And then having the child take a break. In your textbook, it talks about time in instead of time out. And that is allowing the, after you've labeled the emotion and what's going on, allowing the child to cool down. So for some children, it might be, would you like to sit over here and read a book together? That could be it. It could be that they have thrown themselves down on the carpet, and maybe your role then is to stay within 6 feet of them and sing a soothing song to them and keep other children out of their area. So whatever that looks like for them. Okay. So I'm not going to go through the whole article, but those are some very nice ones. Here's the bullying one. It's just a sharing with children, sharing with adults that toddlers are not intentionally bullies and signaling out anybody. So that's something you could share with a family if they're worried about that kind of thing. All right, let's go back to the All right, are we back on the biting slide now? Are we seeing this?
Yes.
Awesome. Biting, who can tell me why they think a toddler might bite?
Because
TV.
they're not getting what they want.
Okay, they're frustrated,
Teething.
teething.
Okay. Upset, of course.
Hi.
Upset, teething. I've seen some toddlers bite just because they like the sensory of something to sink their teeth into.
Oh, yes, that's one too.
Now I've noticed some of my kids. Well, I used to have a kid who would go to bite, and when you brought it up to the parents then would tell me that they do this when you go to act like you're biting your kid's cheek or their arm.
So they're doing it for play?
Yeah, but they don't understand that they're hurting somebody because they don't like censor how hard they're biting.
Right.
Lack of communication.
Because they can't speak.
They can speak.
And that's a pretty good communication strategy. Somebody knows how you're feeling when you bite them. All right. So what can you do? So based on your classroom setup, when is biting most likely to occur in a classroom?
Free time.
Free time?
Yeah.
Why is that, do you think?
Because if they're playing with a certain toy and one of my other toddlers wants it, but they can't communicate, then they'll either try to go and take it from him, and when that doesn't work, they go to bite so the kid releases it.
So I'm hearing they'll bite to pretty much fight over resources, toys. So what can you do to reduce that? So if you have one toy and everybody's biting to get it, what can you do?
You can have more extra toys, the same kind.
So you have multiples of each kind of popular toy. So if you have one shiny ball and they all want that shiny ball, then you need to get a few different similar balls that you can offer. Does anybody else have an example of when biting might occur in a classroom? So I heard that it can happen because they're all fighting for the same toy. What else?
When they're in close proximity to each other, so maybe like eating time or circle time, if a kid is too close to them, if they don't, either they'll hit or they'll bite, and then you have to deal with that. And like for eating time, if they're frustrated because you're not moving it fast enough for them, they'll go for the kid next to them.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So proximity. So what can you do in your classroom that would help with that? If they're biting when they bunch up together, how can you reduce that?
I just space them out a little bit if you can.
Provide more space. Some classrooms will have an area that's like covered for multiple children to go in, like I had mentioned the tunnel. Or if you have a loft with a space big enough underneath for 2 or 3 kids to get under there, that bunches them up. And it's hard for you to monitor it, right? Because you're tall and you can't be in that tunnel with them, right? I suppose you could, but most of us can't really get in there. So reducing that, making it so only one child can fit under there at a time, or one child can go through the tunnel at a time, can reduce that. All right, and we talked about in the schedule how you can reduce wait time. So you mentioned if you're not quick enough getting the food out to them, that they get frustrated and will hit or bite their neighbor. So what could you do to make sure the food was ready before they're sitting, waiting for you?
Get it out earlier.
So you could get the food out before you call the children to the table. so they wouldn't have to wait as long. Also spreading the chairs out. Or if you know for sure there's one child that's really oral, that's more likely to happen, you would give them more space around their chair. And I also put on here that page 424 in your textbook also discusses how you can respond to challenging behavior. All right. So time in, time out is passe, y'all. It's not recognized as something that really fixes a behavior. It's a punishment that for a 2-year-old, it's even hard to get them to sit in a timeout. So it's more of a punishment for the teacher than the child anyway. Time in, it's good to provide the child a choice. So if they're really emotionally up there, you can offer, would you like to go to the cozy area, or would you like to go to the library area to calm down? So you could say that, or do you want me to sit with you? You can sit with the teacher to cool down, or like I mentioned, if they're if they've thrown themselves to the floor in an area, you can sit nearby, not too close that it's crowding their space, but just being near enough down where they are on their level that you can talk softly to them and help them regain control of their emotions. We all looked at how important mirror play was when we were going through the goals in Little Texans Big Futures. And that's something that's nice to have available near the cozy area so that they can look and see what their face looks like. And you, as you're labeling emotions, it's just fascinating for them. And sometimes it's calming just to see what's going on your own face. Does anybody have a question about time in? I have one that I didn't throw out there. Do you put a time limit on it? Do you say you need to go sit in the cozy area for 5 minutes and figure yourself out?
It's supposed to be.
You know, when they do the timeout, they usually do, I know they say to do the age of the child. So if you have the little ones, it's only what, a minute or until you see that they're not aggressive or they're not upset or.
So if you were doing a timeout, you are correct. It would be very short because their attention span's not there. But this is not a timeout. This is, you're offering them an option of, would you like to go sit in the cozy area or in the library area to calm down? If they say yes, they can stay there until they feel calm. And then they choose when they leave. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was reading the book, and they say that timing is you give it option to stay there, and then he can go to back and he's ready to go to play. It's not time.
Mm-hmm. So it's the only purpose is to help them regain their composure. Once they've regained their composure, you can use all your talking skills to label their emotions and what happened and give them a choice of what to do next. You can't really do that while they're thrashing around on the ground screaming, right? They're not hearing you, they don't care. So you wait till they're calm before you do that. And you can't let them run around where the other children are throwing things either. So you give them the best choices you can. If they're a child that you can talk into going and sitting in the cozy area, or do you want to sit with me? Or, you know, do you want to just stay where you are and then you move the other children out of the way so they won't be hurt? You're not supposed to grab up the child and make them sit with you or drag them over to the cozy area and plop them down. They're supposed to, that helps them get their composure by making that first choice. Helps them feel more in control. If, however, the child has somebody by the hair and they're yanking them down, of course you're going to stop any hurtful actions very calmly, and then you give them the choices. Hopefully you have another teacher that can address the child that just had their hair pulled.
Lillian, can I add something?
Yes, by all means.
So just also remember, guys, that at the end of the course, you're going to take your test, right? And so just for test purposes, I would read over this page 425, because this feels like a multiple choice question to me. And they might say something as in, the reason why you don't use timeout is because it does the following things. And then it gives you a list, right? So it could be A, B, C, or all of the above. So this kind of feels like a multiple choice question that's telling you what timeout does, which is shame the child, makes the child feel that you're in control, things like that. So I would just make sure to read over page 425, take good notes on that page so that you'll know that, yes, we want to do time in, but be aware of a timeout and what not to do and what it means, because I can see that as a test question.
Okay, and that's what we have for today as far as our presentation goes. If anybody has questions or they want to stay on and do any of their writing, I'm more than willing to stay on as long as you want and work with you on that.